Tonight, I stand before the American people at a turning point that future historians will examine for decades to come. For 9 long years, we have watched the Republican Party contort itself, bending, twisting, even breaking to serve the interests of a single man. We have seen them rationalize the indefensible. We have seen them confront insurrection, corruption, and the steady weakening of our most sacred institutions only to avert their eyes. They did it out of fear. They did it out of cold political calculation. They did it because they convinced themselves that loyalty to Donald Trump was their only route to power. But this evening, the direction of the wind has shifted. Look toward the White House tonight, and you will witness something Donald Trump dreads more than incarceration, more than financial ruin, and more than electoral loss. You will see him isolated. For the first time since that descent down a golden escalator, Donald Trump is truly standing on his own. You have seen the headlines, you have heard about the leaks, but I am here to tell you what is unfolding behind closed Senate doors and inside the secure briefing rooms of the Capitol. The sealed verdict, those explosive documents unsealed by Judge Brown regarding DHS contempt, did not just expose crimes against immigrants. It did not just expose a disregard for the courts. It exposed a betrayal of his own allies. That is why the pressure is finally giving way. What emerged from the unsealed evidence, the damning assessment of this administration's inner workings, was the existence of a covert surveillance roster. We already knew activists were being monitored. We already knew journalists were being watched. But these documents expose something far more alarming. The administration, using the same predictive policing algorithms provided by its tech benefactors, had been quietly assembling files on Republican lawmakers judged to be insufficiently obedient. This is the inflection point. I have spent my life in law enforcement. I understand how conspiracies survive. They endure only as long as everyone inside believes they are shielded. But the instant those involved realize the person at the top is documenting them, monitoring them, and marking them as targets, loyalty collapses. Today, senators who spent years defending the president on television have gone conspicuously quiet. Phones are unanswered. Chiefs of staff are murmuring to reporters that they are deeply troubled, and there is a reason. They recognize their own names in the unsealed material. They discovered that the Project 2025 surveillance machinery was never designed solely for the radical left. It was built for anyone who paused, questioned, or hesitated. They now understand a hard truth. Under a unitary executive, there is no independent legislature. There are no allies. There are only subordinates. Yet, there is another force behind Donald Trump's isolation tonight, and it involves the very interests that helped elevate him to power, the financial and technological elite. For years, the power brokers of Silicon Valley and Wall Street made a cynical bet. They believed they could manage him. They assumed that tax cuts and deregulation were worth enduring the instability. They funneled millions into super PACs. They granted access to their data, their platforms, their algorithms. But what the sealed verdict exposed sent a shockwave through the markets, and it changed everything. What the records make clear is that this administration has been preparing executive actions to place the Federal Reserve under direct presidential control and to turn the SWIFT banking system into a weapon against domestic political adversaries. Capital despises instability, but even more than that, capital recoils from a ruler who can reach into the treasury at will. I have spoken with figures inside the financial world, people who have not answered a Democrat's call in years, who are now openly alarmed. They understand too late that they helped create a monster they can no longer restrain. The very surveillance infrastructure they financed is now endangering the foundations of global finance. If a president can freeze a corporation's assets because its CEO criticized a social media post, as these documents indicate was contemplated, then the American economy ceases to function as a free market. It becomes a system of coercion. And that is why the donors are retreating. That is why the once loud tech executives of 2024 have fallen silent. They are looking for the exits, finally grasping that disruption is entertaining right up until it threatens their own balance sheets. And so Donald Trump stands alone. He is raging in the West Wing, shouting at a staff that is shrinking by the hour. He is watching cable news segments where his staunchest defenders are suddenly saying, "We need to let the legal process play out." In Washington, that kind of silence carries a meaning. It is a death sentence. But my fellow Americans, I must offer a solemn warning. Do not confuse isolation with surrender. An authoritarian backed into a corner is at his most perilous. When a leader understands he has lost the legislature, when he knows the donor class has abandoned him, and when the courts are closing ranks, there is only one option left to him: raw force. We are now moving into what may be the most unstable 72 hours this nation has ever faced. The president still commands the military. He still exerts control over federal law enforcement agencies, at least those still willing to obey, and he still possesses the contingency plans revealed by Judge Brown. The verdict makes clear that this moment was anticipated. Orders have already been drafted to invoke the Insurrection Act, not to quell violence, but to crush resistance to his agenda. He may attempt to sideline lawmakers who are breaking away. He may try to govern by decree, daring the Supreme Court to intervene. Yes, he is isolated, but he remains armed with the authority of the most powerful office on earth. That is why quiet disapproval from Republican leadership is insufficient. Turning away in private is insufficient. Whispering frustrations to reporters is insufficient. Action is required to the members of Congress who are recognizing their own names on those surveillance lists tonight. The decision is yours. You can continue maneuvering, hoping the storm blows over, or you can fulfill your constitutional obligation. You control the purse strings, shut down the funding for these unlawful operations. You wield subpoena power, bring the Secretary of Homeland Security and the tech contractors into public hearings, and force them to answer for this breach of trust. There is still one authority that outweighs all others: impeachment. This moment has moved beyond party labels. The sealed verdict made that unmistakably clear. What is at stake now is survival. If he is not stopped now, while he is shaken, while he is isolated, there may not be another opportunity. The machinery he has assembled, facial recognition systems, financial asset freezes, deportation pipelines, will not remain pointed outward. It will be aimed inward, and it will be aimed at you. And to the American people, I say this: pay attention to what is unfolding. Watch how rapidly the illusion collapses once the truth is exposed. They said these warnings were delusional. They said Project 2025 was fiction. They insisted the safeguards were unbreakable. Yet tonight, the very architects of that system are abandoning ship. What we are witnessing is the implosion of a cult of personality, and the danger is not just in its rise, but in its fall, because as it comes apart, it threatens to tear down the foundations of our democracy with it. This is the moment for a coalition of the sane, for courageous judges, for lawmakers who have awakened, for whistleblowers willing to speak, and for citizens prepared to stand together in the space where fear once ruled. Donald Trump is alone, but we are not. We are the majority. We are the people who believe in the rule of law. We are the people who believe that no president is a king. When this fever finally breaks, it will be us who remain standing. But we cannot stop with identifying the illness. We have to confront what comes next. Because even as Donald Trump sits alone in the Oval Office, the machinery he unleashed has not shut down. Tonight, reports emerging from inside the Justice Department should send a chill through every American. The early stages of a purge appear to be underway, with his political protection on Capitol Hill collapsing. The president is reportedly demanding the resignations of senior Justice Department officials who refuse to approve the contingency plans detailed in the sealed verdict. He is searching for his Roy Cohn. He wants someone willing to sign the order to federalize the National Guard and seize evidence from the Eastern District of New York. This is a Saturday night massacre unfolding in slow motion. Only this time, the stakes are vastly higher. And I want to address the military leadership of this nation directly. I know you are watching. I know the chairman of the Joint Chiefs is studying these unsealed directives with deep concern. The sealed verdict makes clear that this administration regards the Posse Comitatus Act, the safeguard that prevents the military from being used against American citizens, as an outdated obstacle. President, if you attempt to order American troops to surround an American courthouse to block a judge from enforcing the law, you will tear at the very fabric of our armed forces. You will force service members to choose between a commander-in-chief and the Constitution they swore to uphold. Do not force that choice. But there is another darker layer to this isolation that must be faced. The silence from Republican leadership is evolving into something far more volatile. I spoke with a colleague across the aisle less than an hour ago. He told me the DOSes exposed by Judge Brown go far beyond voting records. They include private text messages, location data from family trips, even search histories. That is why they are breaking away. Not because of a sudden moral awakening, but because they understand they are being leveraged. The verdict confirmed that the White House has been holding a sword of Damocles over the legislative branch. Now that the blade is visible, fear is giving way to fury. And that brings us to a narrow and decisive window. For the next 24 to 48 hours, the president is stunned by the collapse of loyalty. The tech donors are immobilized. The Senate is in open revolt. This is the moment for the coalition of the sane to act with clarity, courage, and fidelity to the Constitution. We must insist immediately on the appointment of a special counsel, not to relitigate the past, but to secure the present. There must be prosecutors inside the Department of Homeland Security. Now servers must be seized, databases must be locked down, and not a single byte of data can be allowed to disappear because, make no mistake, the shredders are already humming. The delete keys are already being hit. They know the reckoning has arrived, and they are racing to erase the proof of blackmail, of financial corruption, of unlawful surveillance. Yes, Donald Trump is isolated, but a wounded animal lashes out. He is pacing the residence, searching for a way to upend the board. He may attempt to divert attention with a foreign crisis. He may try to shut down the government. He may even attempt to remove Judge Brown. But he has forgotten the one force that has always defeated would-be tyrants in this nation. Power does not live in the White House. It lives with the people who placed someone there and who can remove them. He stands alone because he betrayed everyone who once stood beside him. We stand together because our loyalty is to something greater than any one man. Hold the line. The truth is no longer hidden. Now the work must be.